All right, so thank you guys for joining us. We are going to be working on Module 7. I did have an opportunity to meet with several of you while I was up at the office. I will be there again this afternoon to help if there's any questions that you have regarding the module itself or your project. We are getting close to the end. Next week will be our last week reviewing Module 8. So just know, even though the online classes, this online component will be ending, I will still be available to offer any sort of assistance you need in regards to completing the modules, but also help implementing your community projects. It's always, I think it's been very, I've loved hearing what you guys want to do. These are amazing projects that have some, they're impactful projects. And so that's what I love about this program. And that's what I love about the work that you guys do as a program, is you're looking not just to get something accomplished, but these long-term effects that are going to come from that. And so I really commend you guys for all of that. So Module 7, how many of you guys have had an opportunity to complete Module 7? Awesome. Okay, if you haven't, just schedule some time for yourself, at least an hour a night, to kind of work on these. I know they can be tedious, but in reality, they're just time consuming. And I know with everything that's been going on, with the holidays, sometimes it's easy to say, oh, I'll just do that another time, or justify, I've got other things that I got to get done. So just take a little bit of time. I know it takes some time to watch those videos. This program has been designed to be helpful in all aspects of your personal life and your work life, and in the aspect of your project. So social health. So we're on page 93, module 7. So the social health module will cover many different aspects of social health, including the social ecological model of health, social inequalities, and creating solutions. So you guys remember when we started, we were talking a little bit about being solution focused. It's easy enough to point out all the things that have gone wrong and all the things that haven't worked in the past. And it's also easy enough, which is a thinking error, to think that this is going to have, start thinking about the negative parts of everything. Like, this isn't going to work because of this, or because of this, or because of that. But I think it's really important that we start practicing being creative in solutions. There are solutions. Now, solutions aren't going to be immediate. Some solutions are, but some solutions may be long-term. So it's always important just to remember, practice keeping yourself in a place of being solution focused. Any comments so far?
I actually, is crazy, is that like, I am stuck still on module 5 because I had an incident come up, and my friend has like really severe mental health issues, and it's so severe that like it seems like she's like high as a kite, and she's just like freaking out. And but when you like, I sat down and like talked with her, and like she's completely aware of what she's doing. Like, she knows, she has her coping skills, and she knows what she needs to do. It's kind of like scary at first, but like it's something that I have experience with because I have insomnia and stuff. So, and she hasn't like slept, so it was a very, not difficult, but I had to be like solution focused. And in emergencies, I tend to think very clearly. I don't know. I don't panic. And so I just had to like let her be, and, try to like think positive and be patient. Patience is the key. It's crazy that, and patience is fruit of the Holy Spirit too. So it's a good thing to have it. It's not just a virtue, it's something that benefits you through your life anyway. So I was able to get her stable on her meds and stuff, and it's just hard because like nobody, like everybody knows like she's clean and sober and everything, but nobody knows how to help her through it. So I was able to. So I know that like God has a plan for us all. And as long as we stay the course, and I know life's gonna get hard, but always reach out for help and always seek, a second opinion or different, viewpoints of view, because it helps like break you from, your brain, and then you're like able to start, keep going forward and, do good things. So that is my experience this past week with solution, and to not be afraid to reach out to people. And like, luckily we have a friend who's a therapist, so I was able to call him when, things was getting hard, and, come up with a backup plan, just in case we had to go to the ER, that I knew exactly what to request for her, so I'm just going through already, but it's like all been positive. I mean, even though it's sometimes things are hard and you don't think that, it's just hard, be positive, stay positive, work them affirmations, and find exercise in your life, even if it's like jumping jacks. I would totally highly recommend getting up and like stretching and stuff. It works wonders. So
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And one thing to always remember, it's okay to not know. It does more damage when we pretend to know, because we don't know what we're talking about. So openly admitting that there's certain things that we don't know and that we need to find out that information, or we need to refer to somebody else, is always a good thing. So when we start looking at the social health, we are social creatures, right? And so with everything that's been going on with COVID, it's really restricted that opportunity or the need that we have to be social. And that's from going to the store, to meeting with our family, to going to work, all those social aspects. So when we are in a place where being social beings, basically, and that becomes restricted, that can cause a lot of stress. And so what they're finding through what's going on, is that because it's so stressful, people are reverting back to old coping mechanisms, because old coping mechanisms are something that we've practiced for a long period of time. And so it's when we start engaging in a new method of coping, when we're in stressful situations, sometimes that new method of coping is not as easy as the old method. So it's easy to revert back to old coping mechanisms. So social health, is really important. But then also on the other aspect of that is sometimes our social interactions can be very unhealthy. And so it's really important to look at these in when we look at the term social health in different aspects. So Shay, really quick, I'm going to put you on the spot. What did you get out of this chapter, out of this module?
I'm trying to go over in my notes. After reflecting on this, I don't really, just so much has gone on. But I'm trying to look at my notes and see where I am on this. Because I don't know. I feel like understanding like social health and talking about mental illness, it's a I want to talk about things that pertain to this module, but it's very interesting because a lot of people do suffer with mental illness. A lot of people do have body image discrepancies about themselves. And one of the most interesting things that I did over the weekend is I attended this thing with Sean T. He was doing like a on virtual online conference, and it was all day. It was from 8 to 2 o'clock, and he's in Phoenix, Arizona. And the one of the things that what I learned from that conference was at his peak health, he was doing unhealthy things to keep his physique. Like he was taking laxatives and stuff so that when he does eat, he would digest it faster and then poop it out. And then he wasn't eating right. And then Jolene from Beachbody, who does like the plyo and turbo fire and all that, she was mentally and physically, physically she was okay, but in her body, her gut health was affecting her brain. And so it was causing these little tumors in that, and having, looking at them and saying they have great physiques and stuff, they take a toll on themselves, just their presence, And so social health with this, thinking about it, they were doing all that damage that was inflicting onto themselves, and it really took a toll on them. So mental illness is like, I bet we all suffer from it in some sort of way, because, and we all may seem normal, but being like 26 years old and understanding like everybody around me, I figured out that they're like, everybody's not normal. They're like, to me, wouldn't be as normal as it is to you. To Chris, it wouldn't be as normal to, say something to him, and then, I might take it the wrong way and he might take it the wrong way. You know what I'm saying? So everybody has a mental illness, but at the same time, I'm not a doctor. I can't diagnose that. I can only say so much that I'm required to do. But this chapter is kind of eye-opening because it just discusses that, and it kind of brings the topic to light. So I liked it. And I didn't really do the project development at the end because I figured that we would do this here. And to talk more about that, to kind of have a realistic project plan for my community. I know that I talked about like, thinking about like this historic stuff, but with like this deadline coming, we already have like a project that's out. It's like the garden project, where you go around to the local communities and drop off they host their own garden boxes, and then we teach them to grow. We do the box and then the dirt and mulch and all that. We partner with USU. And so throughout, we've been doing this for, I'd say, has it been 5 years, 6, 7 years? No, I'd say 6. I feel like 6, it kind of was, everybody was just like excited about it. But, so I've kind of been thinking that hearing these discussions with Cassandra and Susie and Yvette and Mercedes, they've been talking about these, I've seen them too, these empty garden boxes that nobody's utilizing. So my idea and Sandy's idea is to kind of partner together and go around, and I was talking about utilizing these empty boxes and maybe making a community garden out of them. And so kind of like, I think it was in this chapter, in the last chapter, it was talking about sustaining natural energy. And so, with the garden project out there, and kind of reusing the supplies that we have instead of like, buying new ones, it would kind of be more more realistic to incorporate, meaning reuse the supplies that we already have out there that's been out there for years. So I know that Sandy was telling me that there's a grant out there for that, or something like that, like a community garden grant or something. So that's things that realistically playing towards this project so I can get it moving and stuff. So, and then also, to talk about this too, is the food to fork, farm to fork program, where local growers, they grow the plants, and then like they have like a professional chef come out and they make whatever they have in their garden box as a dinner. So that's just something to keep in mind, but it's not like I want to incorporate it. It's just like, this is kind of like ideal for now. So, but yeah, thank you for calling on me, Michelle. I appreciate that.
Thank you for sharing, Shay. I really like how you brought out the whole fact that, we really don't know what people are dealing with, and it's a lot of us. So, Floralina had actually shared, with her anxiety. I think a lot of us suffer from different levels of anxiety, but it's like, how comfortable are we to actually speak about that? Socially, it's seen as there's something wrong with you as a person. But the reality is these are the realities that people deal with, and everybody has something that they're dealing with. And it's actually very powerful to be able to talk about that, because when we keep things secret, they become more of a monster. Being able to speak about things helps us process, helps us really look and find solutions. So, and there's always power in vulnerability. And I love that, because if we were to be more, allow ourselves to be vulnerable, I think people would be more empathetic. And so remember, I shared a video with you, the difference between empathy and sympathy. There are two different things. Empathy is truly just being with somebody, not necessarily sitting there and solving their problem for them, but just letting them know that they're not alone. So true empathy is a good thing. Yeah, and so when we look at social health, we don't understand what people are going through, because those things are gone through behind closed doors. Those struggles are individual, but we have this social norm that's been placed out there by who knows who, or who knows where, who it came from, where it originated, or why it's still in force, that we have to be a certain way. And so we put this social front, basically. And that social front is totally different than the person on the inside. So social health is really important. So in the video, you were introduced to the health impact pyramid. Why is the pyramid important? So this is just on page 93. This is just the learn-in after you watch the video. How are the different tiers of the pyramid related to each other? What type of decisions can we make to have the greatest impact on population health? Now, with anything, how do you guys think we can have a great impact on population health? If we're looking at not only physical health, but mental health, how can we have an impact? That's a really deep question, because we actually, especially those of you who work out in the community, and I had this conversation, I believe, with Avadni and I think it was Jess and Jeanette. I think it was just those three, that you guys, with being out in the community, and I think it was Chris too, you guys model behavior. You model how to manage and how to cope. You model how to interact. I was talking with Yvette this morning because I have an opportunity to do a presentation at Eagle View tomorrow. And I was thinking to myself, how do I introduce the career that I'm in, drugs and alcohol? How do you introduce that to a bunch of seventh graders and pique their interest? But then we were talking a little bit about respect. And so respect is something that's actually modeled. You can talk to young people about respect all the time. You can talk to people about respect and try to put it into words, what respect looks like. But the biggest impact you're going to have is when you model respect, when you show what respect is, how it looks, how it speaks, how it works, how, walking through the community or meeting somebody, even if it's somebody that you may not particularly like, you can still be respectful to that person and respect the fact that they exist and that they have a life, and this sounds horrible, but I don't mean to sound bad, but they take up space. They're a part of our environment. They are a part of the dynamic that comes along in our community. But you can't necessarily teach those things, but you certainly can model those things. This program, and I keep on referring back to the program helps you refine those abilities to model these concepts. So by what you do, that is how you are having an impact. That is how you make changes in community. So when
Right.
somebody asks you a question and it's, let's say you're doing a community presentation and it is totally off the wall and has absolutely nothing to do with what you're teaching, how do you model respect and validate that person and let them know that they as an individual are valuable and what they have to say is valuable too? What's one way to model that?
Just sitting there in silence and going like this when you want to say something, and just because you don't know it all, and you know you got to let them do their process. You can't force it, because if you like, you know, like with my friend, like she knew, like even I had to watch what I said. I had to watch how I gestured. I had to be very mindful and aware of the energy that I was projecting. Like I had to stay calm and I had to breathe. I had to, you know, work my coping skills and allow her to work hers without being pushy or acting like, no, you know, that's not how you do it. You know, like she already knew what she had to do. And like, it's crazy because like you know, I'm in the recovery area too. And like we're going to be starting a NA for Red Pine Zoom. And so we do Addict to Athlete, and Jonah's a part of the House of Hope over at the Thompson area. And so like we are active in the community, even though, you know, it's not put out there that we are. And like just being present and saying, you know, you're going to be there when you say you're going to be there, and answering that phone, and, you know, seeing somebody struggling and just putting yourself out there saying, hey, I know what you're going through and I'm not a weirdo. Give me a call. You know, I'm here for you. Like, it's okay. Like, even if I don't know what you're going through, I'm pretty sure that I know somebody who does know what you're going through, you know? So it's like a community effort when it comes to helping somebody through recovery, because most of the people who come through recovery have a mental illness. And like my friend, her stems all the way back before she was born, you know, and she carries that burden, you know, and where she has to take care of everybody. So it's like trying to help empower her that no, you don't have to take care of everybody, because, you know, like if you was in a crashing plane and you don't put the oxygen on yourself, you know, and you pass out and your daughter's there, your daughter can't carry your big butt out the airplane. You know, you got to be the one to save yourself. And, you know, I mean, even if it seems selfish to other people, it's the right thing to do. You know, we got to look out for ourselves.
So if you can hear me, my computer froze.
Oh no, what happened?
Back.
Oh no.
I don't know what it is with our stinking internet. It's ridiculous. So anyway, but yes. So did I freeze again? Okay. Yeah, I don't know what's up with that. So thank you for sharing that. It is so true. You can't fill somebody else's cup until your cup is full. And it isn't necessarily being selfish. Sometimes I think there's been this unspoken norm saying that you need to totally sacrifice everything you are to help the people around you. But that's not productive, because you're not helping the people around you. You're just actually teaching and modeling unhealthy skills. What we learn and how we learn how to do things is by what is modeled, because we may not understand completely the language somebody is using to explain a concept, but we do understand how people do things. So for instance, like we'll use Vodney. Vodney runs. She has always loved to run since she was young. So if Vodney was sitting there talking about running, but she didn't even own a pair of running shoes, what's she actually modeling? You know what I mean? We live what we model, and people pay attention to that. One of the hardest things that I have a hard time with, words, language is beautiful. Language is a beautiful thing. But language can sometimes take a situation or take somebody's emotions and totally destroy it. So it would be like if somebody were to share something with you, and maybe it totally didn't make sense to you, but it made sense to that individual. And you say after they're done, well, that was interesting. What have you just done to that person and what they shared? So it's always important to pay attention to how we speak. And when you guys are out in the community, you model that type of interaction, you model that type of language. So coming back, those are the greatest impacts that you have. I know it's a lot of pressure. We're not perfect. We should never strive to be. There is no such thing as perfect. But as long as we're doing the best that we can and learn, making changes, always adapting and always looking out for how we are going to better ourselves, we are then in turn modeling and showing our communities how to improve, how to heal. But then also they are showing us, right? It's not just a one-sided thing, it's a give and take. But when we start looking at the impacts, you guys have a great impact. Now, what if all of our community members understood the impact that they had? Not only on their families, not only on their children, grandchildren, immediate families, but on the people around them.
I'm chiming in again because like what I'm seeing is like that people feel like, oh hey, these guys ain't BS. They're not just gonna blow smoke up my loved one's ass, and then when things get hard, they're gonna be like, oh well, we don't know what to do, and pawn you off on somebody else. Like when my friend called, I could have been like, no, but she didn't have nobody, and her mom, like she has her family has history of mental health illness, bad, and like addiction and stuff. So I told Jonah, I was like, we gotta go. I was like, I know we're tired, but we can't be them jerks that said we're gonna be there and not show up. Like, come on now, like what if something happens to her? So I had him go get her, and so just that, and like when she was posting like pictures and stuff where she was, and she was in a healthy environment and she was getting better, and it allowed our other friend to reach out and say, I'm just not in a good way, like I need help. So I gave her my number, and I told her, when you're ready, you come around, let us know. We're not disappointed, we're worried. You like really have to show that you really care about people, and then actually show up, and or at least get them the resources that they need, or support them, like do whatever you have to do. Like we opened our doors, because it was imperative, and just to let people know that you care by, like you said, by doing it and showing that, you're involved in more than just one thing in the community too. So like you're real, you're so right. Like you have to be that role model. You have to be that example, because if people see, especially natives, if they see you doing it, that they're going to be like, oh, hey, that's cool. Maybe I'll give it a try. Like you got to just make it like, and plus too, if you're exercising, you see the physical effects, and it's like awesome too, because like our the gym we go to is doing like a challenge, it's starting end of January, and it's like a contest. Whoever loses the most, and whoever like loses the most like body fat and stuff, you're gonna get a prize, so it's pretty cool, and they help you with health, like nutrition and everything. So I mean, like it's just awesome. Like we're just trying to do everything we can to bring everybody out of, bring them out of their environment, because that's what I told Jonah. If you really want to help somebody and they're like having issues, you need to remove them from their environment, because that's where their destruction is stemming from too. So it's been really helpful to like, like really be there for somebody. And like if I didn't understand, I would try to like find her someone who did understand, you know. And like she actually like my friend, because I was telling her about this, like about the community garden, and her friend were the one, or her husband were the ones that did the community garden in Vernal that time they had it across from that church on Main Street. And so like, yeah, and she was the one who like wrote up all the grants and stuff for that. So I was telling her about that, and she like really needs like work and stuff. So so I have people who are like interested to help that are part of the community who have experience in this, because I don't know. I mean, I know how to make mulch, hey. But yeah, like yeah, gardening is like my next step in my recovery too. So yeah, I was just sharing that because that's my experience with that.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So,
Shall-
yes,
Um, so the garden applications are going to be coming out in February, just so you know. And yeah, people, I just want to make some comments. Like people, you know, you could say one thing and do another. And I notice that people will listen to what you say, but they pay more attention to what you do. So one experience that I have when I first started working here at the program, they do community activities, and there was only like, I think maybe 5 employees at that time. So we did a walk, and I remember going down there. I didn't, you know, step up and be in charge. I just, because I came into the program, the staff were already here. They knew what they were doing. So I showed up down there, and then they showed up, and then they were hurrying and getting things set up for the walk, their sign-in sheets and stuff. And people were already there. And I was talking to people, and then I heard somebody say, well, yeah, that's Painted Horse. They always show up late. Either that or they don't show up at all, or they show up 45 minutes late. And I was like appalled. I was, oh my God, they're talking about my program. And, you know, I just was new to the program, but it was my program. And I was, oh, we can't have this. So from then on, I was telling them, you know, people are beating you down to the scheduled event. You need to be down there 45 minutes early. So it took a while for that to happen, but we eventually got there. And so we were beating everybody there. And after a while, they were like, oh yeah, that's Painted Horse. They're, you know, they're gonna put on a run. And they'd try to come, and we'd already be there. And, you know, one of the comments were, oh my gosh, you guys are actually here early, you know. And so it just got better after that. So, but that just blew me away when somebody said that. And I was, not my program. So just wanted to throw that comment in there.
thank you for sharing that. You know, and that's the reality is, even though we don't, I mean, it kind of sucks sometimes being in public eye, right? Because people do pay attention to what you're doing. And that can actually in itself be a burden. So that's where our mental health comes into, making sure that we're taking care of ourselves. Because it's like, when you are in the community, when you are doing community work, the community watches you, the community sees you. And I don't know if sometimes it's an intentional thing or if it's just how people are. Sometimes they're looking for you to falter. And so it's always important to recognize, but you know, it's also about being patient with yourself, because none of us are perfect. But and it can be burdensome, you know, very a burden when people are continually watching you, because they kind of could become judgmental. But I think understanding and being compassionate towards yourself, knowing that you aren't perfect, but the things that you are promoting are the things that you are actually going to live. Because if you have a passion for, like, if we look at our projects, one of the questions are, you know, what are you interested in? What do you have a passion about? If we have a passion about something, that is what we're doing it, we're living it. This is what we understand. So if it's about gardening, if it's about physical exercise, if it's about running, if it's about drug and alcohol counseling, if it's about providing community activities or with our youth, is because we value and we love those aspects. And so it's important to recognize that we do have an impact. We may not want to be in this place of having an impact, but we are. And so how do we come to terms with that? How do we work through that without setting some unrealistic goals for ourselves, but making them attainable goals? So
real quick on all of that, the tribe, they actually did I remember I went to it, they did I guess the coworkers were fighting and stuff. So in the beginning of the class over at the tribal office, they went through like introvert and extrovert. And a lot of people didn't know what that was. And it's a large part of, being a person and being social or not social. And it went into it was a really cool class because it went into how are your coworkers? Like, how do you understand them socially, and do they learn? Are they a filler, or are they going to use their intuition? So it broke it down really interesting, which I liked. And since this is a social class today, it's also understanding how, your coworkers as well as yourself, are you because people would think I'm I'm out there, but I'm actually don't like being out there. It's so hard for me to be out there. So I'm what is that, an introvert? It's so hard. It's like as social as I am, I'm actually the opposite of how I put myself out there. That is very challenging, and that's a challenge I put on for myself to be out there and make it comfortable for me. And it's still a challenge for me. And so when you interact with people, even your coworkers or people in the public, they may not necessarily be like you, and they may not want that kind of attention, or they learn and they communicate differently. Communication is a big key of being social, and understanding how people communicate is very important as well. They may be social with you emotionally or just unemotionally, so I think understanding that. And I actually got the guy's paper on that. I was like, I really liked your stuff, and he gave me all his notes on it and I still have it, because I liked learning how they communicate and how they socialize, and why I wouldn't necessarily understand them because of how their brains work. They may not emotionally understand it, but it helped me understand myself as well as, because a lot of my coworkers, we've had ends, and you're like, we hashed it out, but it helped me see them differently, as well as, being out in the public, you have to be able to see them and understand that, okay, everybody learns differently. Everybody may not want that attention, or they may try to communicate to me differently, so I have to understand differently, So this one to me is a real important one, because communication, as well as, understanding that everybody is going to express themselves differently, may not understand their emotions as well, and be hard to find those words that belongs to. So I've noticed that working in the communities, and a lot of natives don't like the public eye. They don't like being a center of attention, and you're like, then you have to be, because I'm not. People are really surprised. I'm like, no, I'll sit in the back and chill out. That's where my comfort zone is. But working in Painted Horse has really challenged me to be out and open, and I can do it pretty good, because I understand, and I like people, and I like what I do. So socially, like what we're talking about, it's also being understanding of what people's comfort zones are to express themselves, as well as how they can, and that was a really cool class the tribe put on a while ago. But I still really like thinking about it, because it really, really helped me understand a larger part of myself, as well as other people, socially, being able, I think that's a big part of social health too, is understanding that some people don't express the same way I do, or can explain the same way I do, you know, that they all have their level of, you know, introvert, extrovert, you know, those kinds of things. Because I'm like, whether you guys like know it or not, I'm like, I'd rather be, that's a lot of my job is out of my comfort zone, but I like the challenges of it. So.
Nice. Thank you for sharing that, Jenny. You know, and that is key. It's like if so like when we do community stuff, there may be that person that doesn't want to, they want to watch, they want to be there, but they're not necessarily going to be the one that's up in front. And so sometimes, and I know we've all experienced this, sometimes we can be in a presentation or an activity, and the individual doesn't necessarily know in their, maybe in their understanding, if somebody is in the back against the wall, that's the person they want to call on and bring them to the front. When in reality, it's just simply respecting the fact that they want to be there, and that's okay if they are there, and just letting them be. It's always important to, you know, we want to encourage people to participate, or we want to encourage, but we should never put somebody on the spot to be like, okay, you standing clear in the back, I want you guys all to come sit up in the front. Oh my gosh, as an individual, just as a community member, as a person, I'm just like, oh, heck no. It's like, no, you ain't gonna make me come sit up in the front. I would rather just leave. And there's been times when I've been in presentations where I would just leave. So I know I think I'm frozen up again. Are we still, can you guys still, okay, we froze up for a bit. But it's really important to remember, watch our community members, watch them, look at their body language. Communication is done, a lot of communication is done through body language. And being aware of that, it's, you know, we need to be aware of ourselves. So in the whole social work field, you know, we have different, it's called the micro level, which is our own individual self. Then there's macro, then there's meso, then there, you know, these different, so it goes from yourself to your little more individual community, like family, immediate family, and then it goes out to a global, a larger aspect. We need to be able to understand ourselves and the way we communicate to be able to be effective communicators with everybody around us. But we also need to pay attention, like Jenny had mentioned, to understand the individuals. And by understanding those around us and how they communicate, we're going to be more effective. I know all of you guys have had experiences when you've walked into a room and you've done a presentation and you gauge everybody in that room. I don't think you may not realize you're doing it, but you're kind of paying attention to where people are at. You're paying attention to their engagement. You're paying attention to specific, I know for me, I look at facial expressions. And so if I see somebody kind of like do this look like, okay, after I talked about something, then I don't point that person out. I will just go back and say what I said a different way. And so that comes down to understanding how people communicate. This social, when we start looking at these social concepts, we realize that they start with us. It has to start with us. We can have these broader views and these broader objectives, but we have to be in a place where we can engage and where we can start making changes and modeling certain behavior, but also recognizing the fact that we are only human and we're not perfect. But there are a lot of us who have expertise in specific areas. There are people in our community who have expertise in specific areas. How do we help enhance those individuals, you know, give them the opportunity to exercise and practice what they know and to share that information? If we could start doing that a little bit more, and I think that's what this program does, we can start empowering our community members, right, to make a change. And then those changes will end up with their family, and then with their neighbors, and then within their community. And so you can see how it ripples out. our behaviors and our programs that we're doing and the healthy aspects that we're addressing, whether it be communication, mental health, drug and alcohol, exercise, nutrition, whatever it may be, we are having an impact. And so our impacts eventually, like any sort of ripple, will continue to ripple out until they meet an opposing force, right? That's when a ripple returns. But until then, it's going to continue to go out. I know a lot of you guys have maybe possibly experienced this where you've planned an event and you've had 2 people show up. In prevention, that can be or nobody.
Or you plan a event thinking, oh, probably 30 will show up, and then over 150 show up, like the glow, what is it, glow walk? Yeah, that's happened to us, and we only bought glow sticks to hand out to 100 people. So at first 30 showed up, so we were saying, oh, here you go, here, and we were giving them extra, and then all of a sudden all these cars come pulling in, and we're going, oh, wait a minute, can I have some of those sticks back so we can make it last longer by giving other people? So yeah, that was a surprise.
And we know, like what I said, nobody shows up. It's just like, wah, wah, wah. But one thing that's really helped me when I was doing a lot of prevention or community presentation was I would remind myself, one person makes an impact. And so that is always a good thing to remind yourself. So even with your projects, if your projects do not have the outcomes that you envisioned, one person can make an impact, and you have made an impact. So we're going to quickly, within the next 3 minutes, you can see how fast I can talk. Your volunteer project development, which is on page 101. So in this step of your planning process, you will think more specifically about the details of your future project. Now, a lot of your guys' projects are projects that may take longer to accomplish. On that note, I would like you to think about some pre-steps that you could use to build up to the next part of your project. So for instance, I know I've been saying this a lot, but maybe part of what we need with any of your projects may be the basic education, providing some basic information that can be done in forms of publications, that could be done in forms of, little information videos, making your own commercials basically, right? But getting those dispersed out into the community. So we have a tendency within a lot of different programs to assume that people have a basic knowledge about specific things. So we jump ahead to a project, when in reality is we may need to backtrack and lay the groundwork. Because what happens if we have a cracked foundation if we're building a building? The building doesn't last. The building may be absolutely beautiful, have the most amazing and immaculate designs, but if that foundation is not strong, that building's not going to last. So be thinking about this. If your projects have if they may take longer for you to accomplish, the first step may be for you to gather the information and to educate your population or the people you're targeting on the different aspects. So for instance, I had talked with Vodney about this. She was talking about the running. Maybe part of that could be for her to provide information on the benefits of running, on footwear for running, proper stretches for running, environments, what to look at. Start building up this information, because that information is going to pique people's interest, or it's going to be like, yeah, that's really not for me. The other thing we also talked about is providing alternative ways to join in her virtual runs. One of them, we were talking about the senior population that can't get up and go out. Maybe it's marching in place for 15 seconds or a minute. That could that's leveling the playing field, right? So like with our garden boxes, that could be, we know about gardening, we know about specific things, but on the other side, it's like, do we know, did people know that corn is actually a starch? That's why they use corn, cornstarch. Or that zucchinis are a negative vegetable because it takes more calories to burn than the calories that are actually in zucchini. Some of that basic education. So even like Jess had talked about with doing a sweat lodge for young people. And part of that may be to just provide the basic education, the basic information about the different components that are part of sweat. So all of a sudden, what we're doing is we're building up people's knowledge. The more we know about something, the more likely we are to engage, because we don't go in it with this fear of embarrassment or shame because we don't know. So those are some of the benefits to providing and laying down that strong foundation. And the coolest part about that is that may allow you, once you start building this foundation up and you get it and you're able to accomplish this and finish the program, you put your hours in, you got this information out, you put it in a bulletin, you did a commercial, whatever it may be. You did a video, a live feed, you presented it to the community. Then what you've actually done is you've prepared them to do another project, right? So it's like, I've built this information up. You guys are all prepared. Now, starting in 2 months or 2 weeks, we're going to start phase 2, basically. So be thinking about that. A lot of your ideas and a lot of your projects are amazing, and they have several different offshoots that you guys could go through. So even like Shay with recycling of those boxes, that's a brilliant idea, because what are some of those boxes just doing? They're just sitting there. And then what ends up happening, if somebody's not utilizing it, they're going to get rid of it, tear it apart and throw it in the garbage. When in reality, it could be utilized somewhere else. So there's all these different things. When I was talking with Vodney and her project, that takes off into a whole nother level. So she could talk about nutrition. What's beneficial to eat if you're planning on doing running? What's, scheduling your time, but also taking care of your joints. What kind of foods can you eat that are going to help with joint health, heart health? So you can see all of your projects have the potential to lead into several different projects that encompasses everything that Painted Horse actually teaches. It's an amazing process. So I want you guys to be thinking about that. Review what's going on with page 101. In there, it's like your volunteer project concept development. So when you're briefly describing your project, it's beneficial. I shouldn't say I want you. It's just beneficial to be very concise and clear on what you're wanting it to accomplish. So let's say if I wanted to do something along with communication skills, if I were to describe that, it would be what is your objective? What do you want your outcomes to be? And I learned this from the meeting I was in on Monday, and I love that. It's like my outcome, so that would help me describe my project. I would like community members to develop healthy communication skills to promote family relationships. So right there, I clearly defined what I was wanting. Not just that I wanted people to communicate better, but I defined it and clearly defined it by saying family communication skills. I took it to a smaller level, not something that was so big that I couldn't manage it, but something that was small and doable. What issues does the project address? If we were to use mine, it would be, let's see, misunderstandings when communicating with family. Who is the target audience of your project? Let's say I wanted to do Richardson's, my community. I'd say Richardson subdivision. Try not to be like all of the community, because sometimes when we start looking at such huge things, it can be a little bit overwhelming and we lose control of that. So focus on a community. Focus on one of your specific communities. Let's see, what will the project look like 1 year from starting? That would be like, information was given out to community members on about communication. A community meeting or virtual meeting was held. Let's say evaluation was done on how effective the community engagement was. Then you could say, like, that was done like in 4 months. Then you have another, in the next 4 months, you were able to hold another one in another community because they expressed interest. You started doing, now this is a really awesome outlet, and I want you guys to think about this. Let's say you did a promotional thing on Res Radio and talked for 45 minutes with Lloyd about, presented on this. So he does do that. When I worked for outpatient, we did do that, and that was a blast. So you start looking at how this can look. What is the ultimate objective of the project? Improve family relationships. What partners are needed to the project? Mine could be community presidents. And also, let's say if I wanted to work with Northeastern Counseling. What resources, what partner, are needed? What resources are needed for the project? A Zoom account, access to paper and printing. What challenges might you face while executing the project? People's accessibility to Zoom. We all should wave at her. People's accessibility to Zoom, getting the information out to the newspaper, knowing deadlines. What success should you hope for in your community after the project is implemented? Improve communication skills. Then you're going to go to the volunteer project planning form. Just review it, go through it. If you guys need any extra help with this, I will be there. Remember to set your goals. You need to have short, attainable goals for whatever your project is. You may need to sit down and reassess what that project is and how it's actually going to look within our time frame. We'll go over that next week. We'll talk about when we would like to be able to have your what are they called? Your projects done, because we do need to have an evaluation done in regards to the impact of your separate projects. So be thinking about those things. It's okay to adjust. It's okay to switch things up. You guys have done amazing work. Don't forget to fill out any information or any of the surveys. Also, if you have not done your background check, please get that done. Get that information out. Claire, is there anything I am missing?
No, I don't think so. Again, we do need to have all the background checks processed before anyone actually starts doing their project. So I think everyone on this call actually has requested theirs. So I think we should be okay with that. But if you have any questions or concerns about that, or as you go through your volunteer project planning, please feel free to reach out. I know it can seem like a lot. So we definitely want to help you however you need. So if you have questions or whatever, come next week and we can chat about them all together.
And also, if you do have some, email them to me so I can kind of make sure that I'm prepared to. Really quick, we will be meeting next Wednesday because you guys have the what's it called? Miss Sandy Manning? P22?
PT2.
PT2 next Tuesday at 10. So we will be meeting next Wednesday at 10. It will be our last official module group. Don't forget to if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I will see you guys this afternoon at 3. I'll be at the office until 4:30. Tomorrow morning I will not be there, but tomorrow afternoon I will. Miss Flo, if you need any extra help, let me know and I can arrange a time for you and I to Zoom or to meet. All right, you guys, take care and have a beautiful weekend. We'll see ya.
See ya.